unmute himself?
Recording has started.
Okay, Ms. Leger, are you ready?
I am ready. I have 4:34 as the time today. Chair LaHood, did you want to introduce the meeting?
Sure. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting for the City and County of San Francisco. The public comment call-in number is 1415-655-0001. The meeting ID is 2483-310-8544 #. Anyone who's participating, press *3 to enter the speaker line. This is December 27th, 2022. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order number N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London N. Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25th, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health Officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17th, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via video conference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by email to sot@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process. Meeting decorum. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and/or menacing behavior may be asked to leave. Ms. Leger, please call the first item.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Roll call. Member Wolf?
Present.
Member Wolf present. Member Wong? Member Wong present. Chair LaHood?
Present.
Chair LaHood present. We have a quorum. I am not aware of any agenda changes unless members of the task force are.
Members, do you have any changes or things that you're aware of?
Chair LaHood, there was an email from one of the complainants for, let's see, which one is it?
Were you talking about Mr. Hillier? Member Wolf?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He just wanted to know why there were fewer. The email I got was that he wanted to know why there were fewer cases than were originally announced at the when I sent out the notice of appearance, and they've said they can't make it, they've dropped off, and this is what we were left with.
No, that's not the email I'm referring to. He sent an email about an hour ago regarding item number 5, file number 22092, in which he says that there are documents in there that seem unrelated to this complaint.
Okay, well, I put the packet together, and all the documents that were in that packet, and there were about 1,000 of them, were drafts of documents that Mr. Hillier had submitted. I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about.
He's very explicit. How do you want to deal with this, Chair LaHood?
So I'm looking at his email. He says that things are out of order and that some are not legible, and something is related to a different complaint. Actually, can I ask, is Mr. Hillier available? Is Mr. Hillier here?
If you could raise your hand, Mr. Hillier, if you are present, it would be appreciated so I can identify you. Thank you. Mr. Hillier has been unmuted.
Hello, Mr. Hillier. We received your recent email about items, pages being out of order. Can you tell me, is there anything missing that you were looking for, or are you just seeing extra things that you think are not related to this case?
I I didn't find anything missing. However, some of the documents that were submitted for the October 25th hearing, as I mentioned, are parts of them are unreadable. However, the same document was resubmitted for this hearing, and it's legible in the version we submitted for this hearing, except the revision marks aren't there. So you can't tell what was added for the October 25th meeting, except by looking at the two files side by side and going through it that way. I think it's a minor problem and shouldn't cause postponement of the item.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask if you, so you feel as though there are other representative documents in there that you could refer to, so you would like to proceed and not postpone. Is that correct?
Well, I don't want to go so far as to say that I'd like to proceed because, as I announced, I do have a problem with how it's stated on the agenda. But I do not think that the problems with the files should stop the hearing today.
Okay, I'd like to ask representatives from the Behavioral Health Commission. Is there someone who'd like to respond to this? Do you see any reason based on what's in the file not to proceed today?
I think that's Amber Gray and Marlo Simmons who said they were going to make an appearance.
Okay, is one of those people? I also see Mr. Greer on here. Would someone be able to respond on behalf of the Behavioral Health Commission and tell me if there are any problems with what is in the packet that would impinge upon your ability to proceed with this hearing? Mr. Young, it looks as though Marlo Simmons has a hand raised. And there's another hand raised as well, but I can't tell who that is.
Excuse me, this is a member of the public. I keep getting unmuted and I keep muting myself, but in case there's an error or a cross, this is Liza. So
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself again, but Clerk Victor or Young, it's just me.
Thank you.
My apologies. I'm hearing names being stated and I'm unmuting who I think they're mentioning.
Okay, I see Marlo Simmons, Jeffrey Greer, and then I see another number that I cannot identify with a hand raised, although perhaps that is Mr. Hillier. But if you could unmute either Jeffrey Greer or Marlo Simmons, that would be helpful.
Oh, great. Can you hear me now?
Yes, who is this?
Perfect. This is Marlo Simmons, Deputy Director for Behavioral Health Services.
Hi, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much. And I'm joined by Amber Gray, who is the relatively new staff person working with BHS on the Behavioral Health Commission. And so we don't have any concerns with the materials. There were, I think, a couple hundred pages of items. We have not fully absorbed those, but see no reason to delay.
Okay, thank you. So all parties are ready to proceed. So it sounds like there are no agenda changes, but Member Wolf, thank you for bringing that up just so that we could confirm with everyone. I appreciate that. Any other agenda changes regarding other items on the agenda? Okay, Ms. Leger, let's proceed with the next item.
Hang on a second. Okay, so there are no agenda changes for item 1. Roll call has been taken.
That's correct.
All right. Item number 2, approval of the October 25, 2022 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting minutes. I have a copy.
Okay. Thank you. One thing I would like to mention, and I apologize for not seeing this sooner, and due to the holiday, I wasn't able to follow up, but there, in our last meeting minutes, we had said that I would review the updates from the previous meeting minutes for the wording of the public comments. With Ms. Leger, we have not had a chance to do that. Members, do we need a motion to say that I will do that for the next meeting? Separate from this agenda, it actually relates to a previous agenda.
Do you mean that the minutes should not be approved until you do that?
No, this refers to the previous minutes,
That would be August.
to the August minutes.
I don't believe you need a motion on that since it's not on today's
No.
agenda.
Okay, I would just like to state that this will be done, and Ms. Leger, if you and I could follow up in the next week or so, just to make sure that we do that. I just want to note that since we have that stated in the October minutes. Members, anything else that you noticed that needs to be modified or updated? Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Member Wong. I will make a motion to approve the October 25th, 2022 minutes.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I wasn't present at this meeting, so.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll open it up for public comment and see if members of the public have anything that any comments on this. Mr. Young?
Yes, if anyone would like to make public comment on this matter, you can raise your hand at this time by hitting *3 if you're calling in by a telephone or otherwise using the application to raise your hand. At this time, I'll unmute our first caller.
Hi, it's David Pilpel. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm on the computer tonight, or at least for the moment. So several things that I noticed on the minutes, starting on page 1 of the minutes, page 2 of the packet. Item 1, Chair Yankee appointed himself in place of Member Wong. That's fine. That being the case, then I think Member Yankee should be listed as voting on all items and not Member Wong, because Member Wong wasn't essentially absent, was actually kind of replaced just for purpose of that meeting. So I would suggest that she not be listed as absent. On the following page at the top, Administrator Leger noted that Mark Norton in that case is MARC. There were a couple of instances on page 2 under actions moved by Chair LaHood, second by Member Neighbors, should be seconded.
Take just a minute, Mr. Pilpel. I want to follow. You said on page 2 there was a correction.
Yes.
How to spell member?
Mark.
Chair Mark Wolf. I'm trying to find his name.
No. Mark Norton, MARC. Top of 2. A couple of places on page 2 and perhaps elsewhere.
MARC, right.
Yes, that's consistent with item 4. Several places where it says second should be seconded. I think it is correct to say seconded, and at least it would be consistent throughout. There was some other stuff here. One moment. I don't care about that. Sorry. On page 7 of the minutes, page 8 of the packet, my public comment. I did note that I attended several meetings, but at the time it was not the Behavioral Health Commission. It was then known as the Mental Health Board.
Okay. What item was that, David?
Sorry, item 8.
Okay.
Public comment. David Pilfeld noted that he previously attended some meetings of the Mental Health Board, which became the Behavioral Health Commission. And due to the concerns about compliance with the ordinance, he thinks that education is important. The rest of it's fine. Just that I have never been to a meeting of the Behavioral Health Commission. I'm not intending to start. And then on item 9, the thing that I was most concerned about, if it's possible to adopt the minutes tonight with the direction that some more detail be included on item 9, I think that all 3 of those of us who spoke, former member Washburn, Anonymous, and myself, had specific bulleted comments, and I was hoping that the minutes would include those bulleted comments. If it's possible to include direction that they be included, that would be great. If I have to go listen to the tape again, I will. I would prefer not to do that, but I think it's really important to get those bulleted points in the minutes, because I think that's an important starting point for the later discussion tonight and thereafter about amendments to the ordinance. Those are the things that I saw. If I find anything else, I'll communicate that to Cheryl. Hope that's helpful. Thanks for listening.
Moving on to our next caller, we have Mr. Hillier up next.
No, thank you, Mr. Young. Just wanted to say that I reviewed Ms. Legge's encapsulation of my testimony on my item, and I approve. I think this is the first time that I've fully approved of it. Back to you, Ms. Chair.
Okay, that completes the list of public commenters on this matter.
Okay, great. Regarding Mr. Pilpel's request for bulleted comments, I am going to be writing a summary of what was discussed in the 2 meetings. So members, I don't know, do you think we should still request those additions or not worry about that since there's going to be a complete summary of the public comment from both meetings?
This is Member Wong. I also was not at the last meeting, so I couldn't say. I would assume that a summary of the comments from the last meeting and this meeting would be sufficient, as long as it's captured in some form of the minutes. But that is just my opinion.
Member Wolf, do you have strong feelings about this?
I don't, but I'm for one having more detail in the minutes than less. So, I mean, I think at least it could have been if there were items in writing for that particular item, like item number 9, that were submitted for the record, those should be at least attached to the minutes and referenced.
Okay, how about this? So that we can approve these minutes, and since I do need to go back and listen to it to create the notes anyway, how do you feel about approving these minutes with the suggested changes and a commitment to go back and add the bullet points? And Ms. Legge, I can help you with that since I'm going to be going through that anyway, and perhaps you and I can have a meeting this week that just focuses on minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Member Wong, Member Wolf, since you were the first and the second on that, do you find that acceptable?
Yes. I'm happy to amend the motion to include those changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll follow suit.
Okay. Since we've already had public comment, I'll offer again. If we want public comment on the amended motion, I will take public comment if anybody has anything new to say.
If you'd like to make additional public comment, you can raise your hand at this time. I am unmuting Mr. Pilpel.
Thank you. That works for me. If you could just clarify on Member Wong's status from the meeting, if she was substituted as a member, if she then whatever. It doesn't really matter. Do what you want.
That completes public comment at this time.
Okay. Actually, Member Wolf, I'm going to ask your opinion on that. To me, that's a very technical thing. Member Wong was not there, but she didn't leave the committee. I think we had it was more of a temporary addition. Do you have any suggestions? Do we need to change the wording on that, or?
Yeah, generally, if somebody is filling in for somebody else, that just gets announced at the meeting, and whoever the members are at the meeting, those are the ones that count.
That's what I thought.
Otherwise, this reads as if it was a 4-member a 4-member committee. And it's not a 4-member committee. It's a 3-member committee with Chair Yankee filling in for an absent member Wong.
Okay. In that case, do we need?
Just delete it.
Yeah.
Don't need it. It's not necessary.
Ms. Leger, let's just delete that comment.
For every vote.
Oh, I see what you, so.
Where it says absent,
1
Wong, after where it says the motion passed by the following vote, for every action item, just remove
delete the absent.
Just delete the absence. Doesn't need to be there.
Okay. Ms. Leger, does that make sense?
Yeah, if you had an empty seat, then you could put the absent, but you don't have an empty seat there, so.
Okay, so deleted.
Okay, thank you. Let's call the vote on this.
Okay. Member Wong.
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Chair LaHood.
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. 3 in favor.
Okay, thank you. Please
Item
call the
number
next
2.
item.
Okay. Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
Okay, if there's anybody who'd like to make general public comment at this time, you can raise your hand by pressing *3, or otherwise using the application to raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to make public comment at this time. Okay, unmuting our first caller.
David Pilpel again. I really am interested in item 6 tonight. I may listen to 4 and 5, or I may come back later. Just one brief comment, not on the substance, but on item 4, I believe the reference should be to Public Health Director Grant Colfax in both the item and in the parenthetical. I'm not aware that there's a Greg Colfax. That's all. Thanks.
I do not see any other parties who would like to make general public comment at this time.
Chair LaHood, do we close general public comment?
Yes, let's close general public comment. Please call the next item.
Item number 4, file number 22012, complaint filed by Anonymous against Director Grant Colfax and the Department of Public Health for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner. On September 7, 2022, the task force moved to find Director Colfax and the Department of Public Health violated Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 6721B by failing to provide records in a complete manner, and 6726 for not keeping the withholding to a minimum, and orders Director Grant Colfax and the Department of Public Health to continue to turn over requested records and forward to the Compliance and Amendments Committee for continued monitoring. On October 25, 2022, the Compliance and Amendments Committee moved to request that the respondent submit a letter detailing the retention policy regarding MS Teams chats by November 8, 2022. That was last month.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have, is Anonymous here?
If you're associated with this complaint, if you don't mind, you can raise your hand at this time and I will unmute you. You can press *3 if you're calling in, or otherwise use the application to raise your hand at this time. I have unmuted one person. I do not see any other hands raised. Caller, can you identify yourself, please, as
Sure,
the complainant or respondent?
Yeah, I'm the respondent. This is Natalie Poyman with the Department of Public Health.
Thank you. Is the complainant present? If you can raise your hand, it would be appreciated. They are listed as anonymous, and I'm going to unmute our other caller that I do not know who they are, just to double check.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, caller. I've just unmuted you. I was wondering if you're associated with this complaint. I'm not getting a response at this time.
Okay. We'll ask again. We'll hear from Ms. Poyman first. Ms. Poyman, can you just summarize briefly the response that you submitted detailing your retention policy regarding Microsoft Teams?
1 second, Chair LaHood.
Oh,
Did you want to time this? Did you want to time this? Or is this free discussion?
This is for discussion. This is about compliance. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure, I'm happy to. We submitted the following letter detailing our retention policy for MS Teams chats. So regarding chats, the City and County of San Francisco's Department of Technology has a citywide policy, including DPH, on Teams chats. There's a 30-day automatic deletion schedule that is applied to one-to-one group and meeting chats in Microsoft Teams. There are no exceptions to the chat policy that are allowed. Additionally, the requester had previously shared communications with other city departments about the MS Teams channel post retentions. Teams chats are distinct from Teams posts. And we currently have, as far as we've determined, DPH has no current retention policy regarding the team post. And that's it. Thank you so much.
I actually have I don't know if this is for Ms. Poyman or perhaps for my fellow committee members. I was a little confused about the distinction with posts. Is this something that you're familiar with, the difference between posts and chats?
I'm happy to explain.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if you know the Teams as best as I can as a layperson as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Teams interface, but on the left-hand side, if you're on your Teams homepage, you'll look and see there are chats that you can start or have, it's on the left-hand side of the interface. The posts are when there is a specific topic has a group that they have brought together, right? And so there's a specific topic within Teams. If you look within that group, that specific group, there are, you can make posts within those groups, and that is on the top of the ledger. So it's in a different location on the interface, and it says posts. It says messages and posts, and those are distinct from the chat function. And that's my best. After kind of learning more about this, after going through this request, that was my best understanding of how to explain the two.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Members, what thoughts do you have? And is this something where, since it's a citywide policy, do we, is this, clearly this doesn't comply with Sunshine. Is this something where we need to be going higher up the food chain? What are your thoughts on this?
This is Member Wong. Yeah, it seems like we definitely need to raise this up. I don't know if it's worth bringing up to the full task force. I think, it doesn't necessarily make sense, I don't think, for us as a committee to submit recommendations for the IT department. I also wonder if it's worth bringing up to the Board of Supervisors directly. But yeah, I mean, it's clearly a violation of the Sunshine Ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking, is that maybe we send a recommendation back to the full task force. I agree with you. The letter should not come from us, but that the task force should make a recommendation that this policy be changed, because it's if this, we're this particular department, the complaint is against this particular department, but if the policy is citywide, there's a problem with the citywide policy. Member Wolf, I'm seeing that it says that you're speaking, but I can't hear you. So I'm going to be quiet and see if I can hear you.
Okay.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to finish, but I had my mic open. So I agree. I do want to know is who actually created the policy? Was it a policy created by the commission, or is it a policy, kind of intra-departmental policy?
Ms. Poyman, do you have an answer for us?
I mean, I know I spoke with our Department of Technology, and I just know that's where it lives. I don't have insight into the specifics of how it was created.
Are you talking about the city's Department of Technology or the Department of Health's Department of Technology?
No, the city and counties of San Francisco's Department of Technology has a citywide policy.
Okay.
That includes DPH.
Okay. Thank you. That was the answer to my question.
Yeah. Got it.
So I agree with you, Chair Lewid and Member Wong.
Okay. Seeing as I'm looking back at the agenda and what we requested. So we requested a letter detailing the retention policy. That has been provided. I think it makes sense to have, would one of you like to make a motion to the effect of sending this back to the task force for discussion and recommendation, that we send a letter to the Board of Supervisors recommending that the policy be changed?
Sure. This is Member Wong. I will make a motion to send this letter detailing the retention policy or the citywide retention policy back to the full task force with a recommendation to issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors recommending that policy be changed in accordance with the Sunshine Ordinance.
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. Let's open this up for public comment. Mr. Young.
Yes, if anybody would like to make public comment on this matter, you can raise your hand at this time by pressing *3 if you're using your phone or using your application to raise your hand. I will unmute our first caller.
David Pilpel again. I wasn't planning to comment, but I was listening to the discussion.
David, can you hold on just a minute?
Sure.
When you're going to speak, I'm going to ask you to give me a minute so I can start the timer as a public commenter. Are you ready?
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Okay. If someone can point me to the specific page number in the packet, because there's 154 pages, and I'm sorry I haven't gone through all of it, with their record retention policy, that would help. Perhaps while that's happening, if the concern is that the department's record retention policy and DT's protocol for chats or whatever it is within MS Teams don't reconcile, or that they're not retaining the MS Teams records as long as you would like them to, I think that is worth raising both to the Board of Supervisors and to the Department of Technology and the Committee on Information Technology, which generally has responsibility for the IT policy development and maintenance in the city. It just thinking out loud, there was, and I think this is somewhere in the Good Government Guide, which you may or may not agree with, comments and notes that are, what's a good word? Just not worth keeping, like just a side note, schedule a meeting for next week or whatever, shopping lists, that sort of thing, are the kinds of records that are deemed not public records that need to be retained. There is a general 2-year retention time frame for business records, for general business records that don't fall into some other category, but it may be that something as low level as a chat within MS Teams is more like a phone conversation or just a post-it note or something that doesn't need to be retained. So I would suggest that this may need a little more parsing before you suggest that all electronic records created in Teams or some other software needs to be kept for 2 years or 5 years or forever or whatnot, which I think was not the intent of the records retention policy and schedule. If something is more like an email with a specific business reason for keeping it as a public record for 2 years or some other retention period, then fine, I've got no problem with that. But to suggest that everything that's created or transacted through a software program needs to be retained for a longer period of time may seem excessive to me and may be unduly burdensome on departments without a corresponding public benefit. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying I would suggest that you think carefully about how this plays out. And if you can point me to the page number, that would be great. Somebody, anybody? Thanks for listening.
Do we have any other public comment?
I do not see any other indications of hands raised at this time.
Okay. Ms. Leger, could I have your help locating this? I'm realizing that I may have seen that record in email rather than in this file, but I did see it submitted. Can you point us to it in the file?
The record retention policy?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
So I think I believe a copy of the email is on page 140 of the packet.
Thank you.
And if you're online, I think it's on page 130 because I'm on the this is now the appointment from the Department of.
Yeah, the November 7 response is on our page 130. If you're looking at it on your computer, at the October 25 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting, you are required. You got it?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. That's very helpful. Okay. So that's it for public comment. Members, any further discussion or shall we proceed?
This is Member Wolf. I would agree with the public commenter, former SOTF member Pilpel. I think that it's a record of the meeting. I think it goes hand in hand with the minutes, and I think that just should be in general. If a recording, audio, video, or otherwise, it is made of a meeting, that it accompanies the minutes and retains the same provisions as the retention policy for minutes. Something to that effect.
And are you suggesting that we modify the motion, or is that just sort of a comment that and something that we could discuss in the full task force?
Yeah, just a comment.
Okay.
About that.
Okay. I think it will be good to have a discussion with the full task force on this matter. Any other modifications, or are we ready to take a vote on this?
Yeah, move the question.
Okay. Ms. Leger?
Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. Moved by Member Wong, seconded by Member Wolf to send a letter to the citywide retention policy with the recommendation to issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors recommending that this policy change take place according to the Sunshine Ordinance.
Ms. Leger, we're sending it back to the full task force.
Oh.
That's what the motion was. So we're sending the letter to the full task force for a discussion with that recommendation.
To the SOTF. From the task force or to the task force?
No, this committee
okay.
wants to send that letter about the retention policy to the full task force for a discussion about the 30-day Microsoft Teams retention policy with the recommendation as stated by Member Wong.
Hang on a second, because I want to make sure I got this. I obviously didn't get it right. Send a letter to the task force about the citywide retention policy.
Microsoft Teams retention policy. Yeah.
So not a letter about it, but the email.
Yes.
On page 130.
With the recommendation that the task force issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors recommending this policy change.
Issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors to update the policy to be in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance.
Yes.
I've got a note for myself here. All right, moved by Member Wong, seconded by Member Wolf to send the letter from the Compliance and Amendments Committee to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force about the citywide Microsoft Teams retention policy, as shown on the exhibit that I will include, with the recommendation to issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors recommending that this policy be updated to be in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance. I get it?
That's mostly it. The beginning, though, we're not writing a letter to the task force. We're just forwarding the letter or forwarding the email with the retention policy from page 130 to the full task force.
So you're not writing a letter from the committee to the task force. You are making a recommendation to the task force.
We are forwarding a document that we received to the full task force, and then we're recommending action. The document we're forwarding is just evidence for discussion. And yes. Okay. Citywide retention policy and recommend with a recommendation to issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors recommending that this policy be updated to be in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance. Okay.
Want me to read it back one more time?
Sure.
Moved by Jennifer, seconded by Member Wolf to send the document, the email that's on page 130 of the packet, to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force about the citywide Microsoft Teams retention policy, with the recommendation to issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors recommending that this policy be updated to be in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay, let's call the next item.
Hang on a second, I get.
And I'm going to turn on some lights.
Okay. Okay, are we ready? Item number 5, file number 22092. Hearing to review the Behavioral Health Commission's compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance for meetings that occurred after April 13, 2021. On April 6, 2022, the task force referred the matter to the Compliance and Amendments Committee to monitor future Behavioral Health Commission meetings for compliance with the following sections of the Sunshine Ordinance. 67.7 A as in apple, providing an adequate description of the agenda items. 67.7 A as in apple, posting agenda 72 hours in advance of the meeting. 67.7 B as in boy, providing a clear description of the agenda matters. 67.7 B as in boy, posting supporting documents online or making them available as soon as they are available. 67.7 G as in girl, including notices of rights under the Sunshine Ordinance on the agenda. 67.9 A as in apple, posting supplementary documents for the meeting on the internet. 67.15 A as in apple, allowing public comment for each item on the agenda. In addition, the task force requested the Behavioral Health Commission provide their manual or description of their procedure and practices implemented to address the code sections listed. In an effort to document compliances with the posting requirements of the Sunshine Ordinance, the task force requests that the Behavioral Health Commission maintain a log of when agendas and supporting documents are posted, along with any other relevant data. On March 25, 2022, the Compliance and Amendments Committee moved to continue the matter to the call of the chair and continue to monitor the Behavioral Health Commission for compliance with the order of determination. Specifically, the committee will be keeping a close eye on notice of meetings, and in the event meetings are not noticed 72 hours in advance, how the commission handles that, and make sure the public comment is called every time it is required, and that staff provide the committee with a description of their procedures and practices with regard to the ordinance, which the committee recommended that they use as the basis for a public document describing their procedures and practices, or be incorporated into their bylaws.
Parties related to this matter and will want to speak on this matter. If you can raise your hand at this time so I can identify who would like to speak, and unmute your microphone.
And I think I'm already unmuted. This is Marlo Simmons again, Deputy Director for Behavioral Health Services. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. And Amber Gray is also here with me. And Amber, who I think you all have met, is the new staff person recently hired by Behavioral Health Services, which sits within DPH, to staff the task force. Did you want me just to provide a little framing for, this is the first time I've attended this meeting.
Okay. We will ask you when we want you to speak. Right now, this is Chair LaHood. We're trying to make sure that the participants are all here. Thank you for letting us know that you and Ms. Gray are here. And now we're going to check on other participants. Mr. Young, do we have Mr. Hillier? Is he still on the line?
Yes, he is unmuted.
Hi.
Okay, Mr. Hillier. Okay, we can hear you. Great. So we have been following up with this across several meetings, and we've definitely seen some improvements, and we're happy about that. but I know that Mr. Hillier has also been keeping a close eye on the Behavioral Health Commission because he's interested in the proceedings of the commission and their work. I'm going to ask Mr. Hillier to speak first and give us a brief update about anything that he would like to mention. Hold on one second. Ms. Leger, I'm concerned. There's a note here from someone, and I can't tell who it's from, asking whether we voted on item number 4. Can you confirm that we voted on item number 4?
Yeah, we did. We took a vote.
Yeah. Okay, that was a distraction. I apologize for that. I'd like to ask Mr. Hillier to give us a brief update on anything that he would like to mention regarding the compliance that we're requesting for the Behavioral Health Commission. And then I'm going to turn to the Behavioral Health Commission and ask them to talk about the work that they have done, and then we'll have a discussion about that. Mr. Hillier, is there anything that you would like to bring our attention to that has changed since our last meeting?
Well, nothing specific. The violations of most sections continue. They still have not posted a single explanatory piece of correspondence related to an item, and I've documented that. It's all very carefully documented in the latest version of the complaint document. And I don't know if this is the correct time to bring this up, but I'm still having a problem that I don't think that this committee is in compliance with the second sentence of 67.7A, and I think it's very untoward. It would be very untoward for this committee to adjudicate violations, alleged violations of the second sentence of 67.7A without complying with that sentence itself. So the way I see it, there is no proposed action nor a statement that the item is for discussion only on the agenda for this item. And so the way I see it, I mean, I would complain about this just the same way if the Behavioral Health Commission did it. And so I think that's not a good thing. If you're committing the same violations that I'm accusing the Behavioral Health Commission of committing and asking you for adjudication thereof, it seems a bit out of place, and for that reason, I don't participate in Behavioral Health Commission meetings as fully as I could because of these alleged violations, and I would have to have the same policy here in order not to be, treating you differently.
So, Mr. Hillier, I don't want to interrupt you. Did you have anything else to say, or would you like a brief response?
Oh, well, you did just interrupt me. I had a speech written out, but it's a bit long. It basically says the same thing of what I just said. I did supply a list of 100 actually 31 resolutions with 100 resolve clauses that I asked to be put on the agenda. It was admittedly 17 pages, kind of a lot, but that's what I think should have been on the agenda for this meeting, and those are in the record on pages 738 through 756. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. To be clear, I know that you have said this before, that you would like us to have a motion on the floor before we have discussion. In all of our meetings, we often have discussions first, and we ask questions of the petitioner and the respondent before we formulate a motion, because it's through that discussion that we decide what action should be taken. That's why there is not a motion on the floor yet. If there was anything else you wanted to say, I would give you a chance to say it, but otherwise I'm going to turn to the Behavioral Health Commission. Was there anything else that you wanted to say other than pointing us to what you submitted in the record, which we do have?
Yes, I would like to say that I think that policy that you have violates the second sentence of 67.7A. I know that you have a need for some flexibility in your meetings. And I've noticed, I mean, the ruling that you made in the meeting on October 25th was not an action taken as that is defined in California Government Code Section 54952.6. It was what's called in the courts a minute order. It's just an entry of a specific text into the minutes of the meeting, ordering the parties to do something, this or that, whatever it is. And those are fine, the way I see it, to be done extemporaneously without any notice on the agenda, because they are unpredictable, but mostly because they are secondary motions. They're not considered action taken by the committee. There needs to be an underlying main motion that's before the committee that's on the agenda. It has to be published on the agenda. What is the big deal of the meeting? Not what the minute order is going to be, but what is the meeting about? What is the item about? Is it about recommending that the task force recommend to the Board of Supervisors that commissioners on the Behavioral Health Commission be dismissed for official misconduct? Is it a recommendation that the task force recommend to the Ethics Commission that Grant Colfax should be dismissed from office because he willfully violated the Sunshine Ordinance? I think that information is essential to be on the agenda. I think the law requires it. And I think it wouldn't hurt at all to move that at the beginning of the meeting. There's no reason to wait. You can move that and then make a minute order to say, okay, parties, this is what we want you to do for the next meeting, blah, 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 enter that into the minutes. And then, you can have other secondary motions that deal with the main item, postpone it to the next meeting, refer it to the full task force, refer it to a subcommittee of CAC, or lay it on the table, or postpone it indefinitely, which means basically not vote on it finally. And those would be your options. So I don't think it would put any constraints on the committee, but I do think there needs to be, it's mostly a notice thing. The main motion needs to be on the agenda, and the main motion needs to be action taken under 54952.6. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hillier. I appreciate you explaining your position in detail. I believe that we do have enough detail on the agenda explaining that this is about compliance regarding an order of determination that's already been issued. And I feel comfortable continuing with this. You are, of course, invited. We have another item on the agenda talking about amendments to the Sunshine Ordinance. I don't know if that's the appropriate place for that, but it seems as though I'm just going to proceed with our meeting because I believe we are in compliance, and I've discussed this with Chair Yankee. And we hear your concerns, but we think that we are handling our meetings appropriately. And we do liberally offer opportunities for public comment. I know you're a participant in this case, which is why you get a little more time to talk, but we do offer opportunities for members of the public to comment on just about everything we talk about. I'd like to turn to the Behavioral Health Commission and talk to our representatives. I'm not sure who would like to speak first, but could we have the Behavioral Health Commission, our pair of representatives, tell us a little bit about what you've done since our last meeting, any updates that you can offer us. In particular, we want to know about the noticing of meetings and opportunities to offer public comment during your meetings. Can you tell us about those two things, and then anything else that you'd like to give us details on?
Yep, and I'm going to ask Amber in just a moment to respond to the question about the noticing and public comment. But I just wanted to, again, my name is Marla Simmons, and I'm Deputy Director for Behavioral Health Services, which sits within the Department of Public Health. And based on a Board of Supervisors ordinance passed, I have COVID brain, so last year, puts BHS in a position where we needed to hire a civil service staff person to support the Behavioral Health Commission. So we recently hired Amber Gray, who is providing staffing support. Jessica Brown is her supervisor. Jessica is the director of our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion section of our division. And she is overseeing Amber's work and overseeing her training and onboarding. And I am working to also support the commission. We're really looking at filling vacancies, supporting this compliance activity, and then overall organizational development. And so this is all very new for us, but I want to say that BHS takes compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance seriously. And we've been working closely with the DPH Sunshine team for us to get up to speed. And we are working to really understand the rules and put procedures in place. So to that end, and we just emailed to Cheryl today a recent document that we developed that kind of outlines the procedures, pretty rudimentary, but intended to just show how we are put things in place to work on all of the, to comply with all of the rules. And then we also have created a log, which Amber is going to be starting to use moving forward. That will be her documenting the timing of the postings. We have date stamps and we have ways to show what we've done, but based on the request from this body to have a log, we implemented that as well. And we're also partnering with the city attorney to provide training both for BHS leadership, the Behavioral Health Commission, the commissioners themselves, and staff. And as far as prep for this meeting, we just shared those two documents I mentioned. And but as far as the 200 pages of attachments coming into the meeting, we weren't able to absorb all of that. So we are doing, taking every opportunity we can to improve how we're doing this work, and appreciate the patience that this body has shown in us getting up to speed. So the questions you had, Chair LaHood, were one, are we posting our agendas 72 hours ahead of a meeting?
Yes.
So I will just leave that one question and ask Amber. Amber, are you on unmute? Can you talk to how we are posting the meeting minutes, meeting agendas? And I'm not sure if Amber's off mute or whoever had the power to check people.
Mr. Young, can you check to see if Ms. Gray has been unmuted?
She is unmuted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Clark Gray, and we are currently under the guidance of Behavioral Health Services, and they're taking a more active role in helping structure the Behavioral Health Commission to be in compliance. However, the answer to what was the question?
Have you, since our last meeting, have you been posting your agendas at least 72 hours ahead of the meetings?
Yes, since the last meeting, we have taken your advice on meetings that are not posted 72 hours prior and canceled those meetings and adhered to as much as possible. However, there are some ad hoc meetings that were too close together that could be some of our failures, but we've been pretty good about posting.
Sorry, I was on mute. When you say ad hoc meetings, do you mean meetings that included a quorum of committee members, or were these, what kinds of meetings were these?
Committee meetings for the bylaws.
Okay, so committee meetings. Okay. And can you tell me about your process for taking public comment at meetings? I know that there was some concern that public comment wasn't being taken for all items on the agenda. Can you tell me about any changes that have happened there?
Okay, well, I stand in the background and try and encourage the public comment. We do go above and beyond to give the public enough time to speak, and maybe it's just not enough. But I mean, since I've been there, there's been more than we've extended more courtesy to the public to speak than before.
Okay.
We do have public comment on the policy that we are understanding, and procedures in place are to have public comment on every agenda item, and an opportunity either at the beginning or the end for general comment that may not relate to an agenda item. If that has not happened, it has been an oversight or distracted, the chairs got distracted by something. And if that issue gets called, then we remind ourselves to make public comment.
Okay. And have you heard from any members of the public who were trying to make public comment and perhaps due to tech issues weren't able to speak on the items they were trying to make public comment on?
I think they're only sound issues, but they were corrected during the meeting. So they got
sound issues. Okay.
Yes, they got the corrected.
Okay. Okay. I've asked a lot of questions. Members, Member Wong, Member Wolf, do you have any questions that you'd like to follow up with either for Ms. Gray or Ms. Simmons, or back for Mr. Hillier?
This is Member Wong. I was just curious if you all have been using timers for public comment, or limiting the amount of time each commenter has.
That has come to the table. We are trying to put the timelines on the agenda so we'll know. I mean, for ourselves, how long the meeting will run, to make sure that it runs smoothly. But we do have 3 minutes top public comment. And it's kind of up to the chair how far they are on the agenda. If they do 3 minutes or 2 minutes, or if they only have time for 1 minute.
Member Wong, do you have any other questions? Member Wolf, do you have any questions? I want to make sure that we can hear you if you want to speak.
Yeah, no, you're covering all the points that I'm mostly interested in, and hearing the responses. I have no comment on them at this time.
Okay. Sorry. Mr. Hillier, I want to give you a chance to, we've heard from Ms. Simmons and Ms. Gray, and it sounds like they gave us some recent response, or they sent some recent information to Ms. Leger that I don't think was included here. But we would like to see that log that Ms. Gray is working on. Actually, Ms. Simmons or Ms. Gray, could you tell us a little more about this? You said you've been receiving some training both for staff and for commission members. Can you tell us a little more about this? Who is providing this, and how is that happening, and what's being covered?
Sure. Since I've been here, I've been to every Cal BHC training possible since my onboarding, and that is a part of my training. And there's some internal training as well with behavioral health services. We encourage the commissioners to go to the Cal BHC trainings as well, so they can know their roles and responsibilities.
And that's the statewide Behavioral Health Commission.
And beyond that, we're going to have the city attorney come in and do some training with the commissioners and the staff as well.
Okay, great. And you have you asked the city attorney to cover sunshine ordinance compliance, or is this something that will be presented as part of that training?
Yes, that's what we're targeting, is sunshine ordinance. Okay. We want to encourage knowledge amongst the commission so that people, when they hear things, they're not intimidated and they understand better.
Okay.
Myself as well.
And great. And do you know when that's scheduled for? Is that going to be happening in January or February or?
In the near future. I'm not exactly sure the exact date, but I mean, it's actually already been asked.
Yeah, they've already, sorry, I cannot remember now, the city attorney we've been working with, Virginia. The last name is escaping me. She is already committed to doing it, and we're going back and forth for scheduling now.
Okay. Well, that is good to hear as well. Members, let's have a little discussion about this. How would you like to proceed? One thing I will say is I would like to see the log, tracking the posting of the meetings, and if meetings need to be canceled when that's happening. I think we just like to make sure. It sounds like the things are on the right track, but I think I'd like to hear back one more time on that. Would also like to hear a little bit more about how that training goes. Is there anything else that that you would like to know, that you'd like to hear back, that you'd like to hear a report back on?
I'd like to hear a little bit about consistency of public comment. Just, I think it could cause a little bit of strife, understandably, if some folks get 1 minute versus 3 minutes. So just getting an understanding of that too.
Actually, that's a good question. I know per item you have to give the same amount of time. Is it acceptable to change the amount of time allowed on different items during a meeting?
I can look into that.
I was going to say, Member Wolf, do you have any guidance on that?
The guidance should be, if you start the meeting and you provide public comment for a certain period of time, it's a good practice to maintain that. I mean, it's one thing like what we see with the Board of Supervisors around budget time, and you've got during pre-pandemic years, you've got lines running around the corridors, the halls of City Hall. And so they'll drop it down to maybe, a minute and a half, a minute, because there's just so many people. It would take hours and hours and hours. But if you're dealing with an average of a handful of people, and, folks have cogent comments to make, we allow up to 3 minutes, which is the law. But once you start your meeting, it's a good practice to maintain that amount. But I've seen chairs of various commissions change that up. They'll have a certain amount of minutes for maybe all the action items, and then general public comment will be a different amount, or vice versa, that kind of thing. The guideline is up to 3 minutes. There's a general practice, and that's about it. So that's the best advice I can give.
Thank you. We'll take that to heart.
And Member Wolf, anything else that you'd like to see?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see there be as robust a reference to public comment in the minutes, so that way a commissioner who is reviewing the minutes from the previous meeting for maybe items that might pertain to a meeting they're currently in, or even any member of the public who wants to get an idea of what happened at a meeting, that it kind of reflects it's not just a line that says so-and-so, made public comment about, the state of affairs around COVID. Well, it's not really enough context, and it doesn't really reflect what was said that could be meaningful. And it goes back to where we were discussing before about the the retention schedule for recordings. If it's not going to be at least paraphrased, so it has some meaning, then take verbatim minutes, and so that it could all be, we can know exactly every single word that was spoken. But just to list who the speakers were is kind of pointless. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Hillier, if you're still here, I actually have a direct question for you.
I'm still here.
Hi. I want to know, have you been able to make public comment every time you've wanted to make public comment since our last meeting?
No. And it's documented in the document that I submitted. I can direct you to a specific page if you'd like. But no, at their last meeting, there were items that they said, we're not going to allow public comment on these until, several items down the line after they've been closed and stopped. And it's just to rebut what they said, they're not asking for public comment on every item, even when the agenda says it. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hillier. And the reason I ask specifically is I know you submit a lot of detail to us. I want to make sure that we're getting some key responses on the record, and for those who might not have gone through all of the documents. So it sounds like we do have at least one person here who has tried, and actually, so it sounds like, Mr. Hillier, that these weren't, this wasn't a technical obstacle, which I know you encountered in the past. So it's not a mute or unmute issue. It was that public comment was called intermittently and not for every single item on the agenda, sort of grouping together items and then taking public comment for more than one item.
It was a willful violation. They know, because I've told them repeatedly that they need to ask for comment before or during the consideration of the item. And so it was deliberate. I think it was even to bait me. I think it was to provoke me. Back to you.
I'm not going to, thank you, Mr. Hillier. I'm not going to assume intentions on anyone's part. But I do understand that I understand that you're asking for, and what would be helpful is to have the public comment before the vote happens. So, members, do we have a motion here, or would someone like to make a motion regarding what we're going to focus on? I believe that we should continue monitoring compliance here, but I'd like to offer to one of you to make a motion on this, and what you think we should be focusing on and where we should put our emphasis.
Well, I just have a question, Madam Chair. If we're going to continue to monitor it, then I would just continue the item. Because, there are a lot of instances in this case regarding how a meeting is conducted. And from what it sounds like right now, it's mostly about the posting period and around public comment. So if the suggestion is to continue monitoring, then I would just continue the item. And as issues come up, they come up. But at the same time, we should seek to find some closure. And generally what we've done in the past is that we find that there is some repair to the complaint, that if there was any further issues, we would send it to EOT for training. and have them monitor, and then, you know, they'll be a little more hands-on.
I think that sounds like a good idea. Member Wong, anything to add to that? Okay. I would like to continue this, but I Member Wolf, I like what you said about having a plan to transfer this to EOT, because yes, we've been monitoring compliance, but I think I think that would be a better committee to offer any additional training that might be needed. After the training provided by the city attorney, that it's entirely focused on the Sunshine Ordinance.
Yeah, I would just add, at that point, if they find that it just isn't working, they can then either refer it back to us with a recommendation, or make refer it back to the task force with a recommendation.
Okay, then it's my intention that we continue this for one more compliance and amendment committee meeting. Then most likely, but not sure. You know what? I'm going to say we're going to continue this to the next compliance and amendments committee meeting. Even though we're not making a motion, I would like to open this for public comment. And this is something that we do even when we don't make a motion, because this is an item on the agenda. And we do want to offer members of the public a chance to be part of the discussion. So, Mr. Young, could you tell us if there's anyone who would like to make public comment on this item?
Yes, I will go ahead and unmute our first caller.
Thank you.
David Pilpel again. I'll wait for Cheryl.
Yeah. Just a second, David. Sorry about this.
No problem.
Are you ready, David?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Okay, David Pilpel. So my comments are not so specific to the Behavioral Health Commission, but more general. I believe Mr. Hillier has suggested a few broader items that I wanted to address. And by the way, in your motion to continue, or your intention to continue, I would suggest that you ask the parties to be as specific as possible in future hearings about either problems that they see or resolution, fixes that they've made, so that it's not just a general everything is out of order, but what specific changes have been made. Anyway, the broader themes that I was going to talk about are first about public comment, and I put a comment in the chat. My understanding and belief has always been that it's up to the chair to set the public comment time on each item. It can be up to 3 minutes. In fact, it could be longer if the chair chooses to do that. It needs to be applied uniformly to all members on each item. So if you set it to 2 minutes for that item, then it's 2 minutes per person for that item. But factors to consider include that you might lose a quorum, or that there are other items on the agenda, or you might lose the room, or various things. Also, the complexity of an item. If you're discussing the entire budget for an agency with a bunch of policy changes, limiting public comment to 30 seconds or 1 minute may not be enough time. Anyway, that's just a little bit about setting public comment time. Clearly, the easiest thing is to just say 3 minutes per speaker per item for the entire meeting, but the reality is that doesn't always make sense. As to agenda item descriptions, and here's where I take some issue with Mr. Hillier, or the way I now understand some of his concerns. Depending on the body and the type of item, describing the item for purpose of the Brown Act and the Sunshine Ordinance may simply be just laying out an address or a topic. So, if you put adoption of minutes or minutes from a specific meeting date, that may be sufficient to allow you to adopt the minutes, amend the minutes, continue consideration of the minutes, ask for specific things to happen. It's, that you're notifying the public that that item relates to the minutes. If it's, implementation of the, thanks. If it's implementation of the Mental Health Services Act in the city for a specific month, or the discussion of conditions at a particular facility or whatever, that may be sufficient. If there is an intended legislative action, yes, that should be on the agenda as staff recommendation or a committee recommendation if it's coming from elsewhere. That makes sense. But depending on the nature of the item, it may not be known what the body's going to do with the thing, whether it's a land use matter, a legislative matter, a policy matter, any number of things. So that's what I'm saying. It will vary. Thanks for listening.
Okay, I am unmuting our next caller, Mr. Greer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Greer, you ready to begin speaking?
Yes. Okay, I just wanted to enter in as public comment. I'm intimately aware of the some of the procedures within the Behavioral Health Commission as it relates to posting public comment, and I'm kind of confused. I would assume that some of the chair committee members have looked at the website and have looked at some of the agendas and would be able to comment directly to the items that are there, seeing as how this is a compliance hearing, and they would see that there is plenty of space for public comment. I'm sure the chair has taken liberty to limit the time from 3 to 1, depending on the time constraints of the meeting. But to allude to a wanton, willful muzzling of the public is a pretty far reach. Now we know we have a certain individual in the public that feels as though it's their mission and duty to work for you. However, I also look at the thousands of members that have attended the Behavioral Health Commission. And of these people and all the meetings that we've had, even in the short duration of time as Clerk Gray has been there, there's only been one member of the public that seemed to be confused with the description of the agenda, while at the same time fully capable to generate 200 and 300 page complaints. So I'm not quite sure. This doesn't look like apples to me. That's my personal opinion at this point. I would say that my experience with the commission from where it was to where it is now, it has improved greatly. I think if the purpose of the Sunshine Task Force is to actually offer assistance and change and remediation, that they need to really acknowledge how much has changed and the direction they're going in, and whether or not it goes to the, ETOE or whatever it is, or you would continue, I would probably suggest that the members take a look at the agenda to see if the
25 seconds.
Complainant is actually dealing in a world of reality. Thank you. That is all.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm going to move on to our next caller. Hello, Liza. I've unmuted you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm kind of concerned because previous hearings or Sunshine Ordinance task where this has been brought up, you had mentioned that you were going to come and sit in on a behavioral health commission. Just for the record, I'm here as an independent. I haven't seen you there. So you're just believing one side. There's public comment all the time. I come to this meeting. I've come here with people that were training. You heard that today, that records are confusing, unlegible, confusing, and mixed up. You were gonna do a motion without public comment. You talk amongst yourself. You were called out on your agenda, and your minutes always have to be corrected. And you drive, you leave, and yet none of these things come up against the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. Who's watching you? And where do we file these complaints? I yield my time.
Thank you. That completes our public comment at this time.
Thank you, public commenters. We appreciate hearing from you. We do listen to what you say, so thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts. Members, are we ready to move on to the next item?
Is there going to be a vote at all? Chair, go ahead.
No.
Okay.
There was no motion.
Okay.
I believe the motion is to continue it to your next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yes. Sorry.
In fact, I think, Charlotte, you're the one that made that motion. We don't have a second.
Vote.
I don't have a second.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, Bruce will second. Okay.
Is it not continue to the call of the chair?
I thought it was continue to the call of the chair. It's not.
Okay.
Mr. Young, did I misunderstand?
You can clarify your motion at this time to whatever you believe it should be.
I thought it was to the continuing to the call of the chair.
I have should continue to the next Compliance and Amendments Committee hearing. Wants to open this up for public comment.
Right.
And
I believe that Chair LaHood is amending her motion or clarifying her motion to be continued to the call of the chair.
Yes, that was my original intention, and I said we were still opening it up for public comment.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone who's going to second that motion?
It wasn't. Sorry. It wasn't intended as a motion.
Oh, apologies. I thought it was. Let's move on to item number 6.
But before we continue, does anyone think I'm doing this the wrong way? Member Wong seems to think that we can proceed. Member Wolf, may we proceed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because originally, I think that's the way this has been going, this item, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then I would continue with the same privilege to the chair.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Got you, Chair LaHood.
Okay, please call the next item.
Item number 6, file number 22120. Members of the Compliance and Amendments Committee continue to invite members of the public who wish to propose amendments to the Sunshine Ordinance to present their proposals at this meeting. Each person who makes a presentation will be given an equal speaking time of 5 minutes. The committee will take public comment once all the presentations are complete. So for documents that were submitted, there was nothing else submitted. The only thing we had was former member Washburn's documents. So I included those.
Yes, thank you for doing that. I did notice, and I want to point this out to anyone who's participating in this meeting, it says attachment, it doesn't say attachment, but if you hover over discussion and no action, you can actually click through and there are documents there. So I apologize if anyone didn't realize that you can actually click through and see documents on item number 6.
All right, well, that was my error, Chair LaHood, and I'm sorry I wasn't a little more careful.
That's okay. That's okay. I knew they were there and I knew to find them, but I realized when I was looking at them that other people might not know that they could click on that. Okay. I would like to open this up. So for those who might not have attended our last meeting, we are inviting members of the public to offer suggestions for amendments for the Sunshine Ordinance. This is just for discussion. After this meeting, I'm going to be writing up a summary of the discussion from our last meeting and this meeting. I will submit that to the full task force. And we're also intending to have this incorporated in an annual report that we are working on. Mr. Young, I'd like to create a queue and and Ms. Leger give 5 minutes to every speaker who wishes to speak. After everyone has had their 5 minutes, I'll see if members have any questions. If not, we'll proceed to public comment, and then we'll give anyone who wants to speak for public comment 3 minutes. And it's okay if you spoke in the 5 minutes, you can have 3 minutes again if you have anything additional to say. For example, commenting on something someone else said in their presentation. Mr. Young, I'll hand things over to you for the queue, and Ms. Leger, please just let the speakers know when you're ready with the timer. Thank you.
Yes, if you'd like to make comment on this matter, you can go ahead and raise your hand by pressing *3 if you're on the telephone, or otherwise using the application to raise your hand for public comment. I will unmute our. Well, Mr. Hilliard, you have your hand raised. You're already unmuted, so we can take you first.
Okay. I'll start my own timer here. There. So I heard that Ms. Washburn's proposal is on the agenda on behalf of that organization, San Franciscans for Open Government or something like that. And I heard that the document was not accessible from the agenda. I do remember looking at it at the, I think the most recent meeting of the task force this month. And I submitted a brief written comment, and I'd just like to reiterate that I think that the proposal should be rejected. It actually weakens the Sunshine Ordinance. The second sentence of Section 67.7a, which is becoming a big sticking point for me, is weakened in this proposal. It allows organizations to get out of having to commit at the time the agenda is posted to either a proposed action or a statement that the item is for discussion only. And Mr. Kilpel and I disagree about this. He thinks that, first of all, let me clarify, as far as approving minutes goes, that's a proposed action, and it's being agendized correctly in all the meetings of all the organizations that I've been attending meetings of in the city and county. However, when you are proposing an action which is defined in the Brown Act, Section 54.952.6, and which is in pari materia with the Sunshine Ordinance, meaning that the definitions in the Brown Act then apply to the Sunshine Ordinance. It says that the agenda must include a proposed action. So you have to put the action that you are thinking of taking, or postponing, or indefinitely postponing, or doing whatever with, on the agenda. And this would help so much for public participation. It would help so much if it were followed. But, what I'm hearing is that even this task force, which is charged with the enforcement of the Sunshine Ordinance, is not prepared to follow it and does not think that it says what the plain words of the ordinance says. There's no room for interpretation here. It says the proposed action, or a proposed action. Proposed action are the words, you can't get around those. Those mean action as action is defined in 54.952.6. And it means the motion that you're going to make, not the postponement, not a minute order, but the underlying main motion. I think some of you, that it's just a lack of parliamentary skill. Most of you don't know the difference between a main motion and a secondary motion. And I think it should be rejected because it weakens that requirement. And I'll stop with 3 minutes. Back to you, Madam Chair.
You actually have 5 minutes if you'd like. Would you like 2 more minutes?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Young, whoever's next in line. Mr. Young, I see some hands up.
Sorry, my apologies. I believe we have Mr. Kilpel with us now.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Ms. Leger will tell you when she's ready with the timer.
David, you said? Are you
I was worried that we lost. I was worried that we lost Victor there. I'm glad that we didn't.
Are you ready to begin?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, David Pilfell. So I don't have much of substance to add tonight. I made a number of comments last time this came up 2 months ago, and I'm looking forward to those notes and the forthcoming work from Chair LaHood. And thank you for volunteering. Do you have any idea what you're getting into? Yes, you do. You're doing it. So I was just going to suggest in terms of structuring the comments that you have a section for highlights of proposed changes, whether they're big or small, that people have suggested. And I just made some notes here. The idea of a charter amendment, which could reallocate powers at a higher level, has certainly been floated more than once. I'm not sure that I am with that program, but it is certainly an idea that has come up many times, including from San Franciscans for Sunshine, and should be on the list. I would suggest that some of the, or most of the changes be organized by article, the 4 articles within Chapter 67 in general, public meetings, public records, and then implementation, because I think the changes that are suggested in specific kind of gravitate to each of those topic areas, and if not, they sort of should. I mean, it's hard to say we're going to change something about public meetings without getting into Article 2, or to muddy it up further and say, okay, well, the basic public meeting requirements are in Article 2, but we'll, throw in some other thing to change it in Article 4, and then have people have to cross-reference and further interpret it. I mean, if anything, I think we should be simplifying. You can still strengthen provisions, but simplified language and fewer cross-references, I think, would be good. I have suggested, and I think others have suggested, that looking at the record retention requirements of the city that are elsewhere in the administrative code in Chapter 8 and don't currently have a specific role for the task force be considered. And I think that's worth thinking about. Also, Chapter 67, which is Chapter 67A, which I think just has the little ban on sound producing devices during meetings. That could be easily incorporated elsewhere into Article 2 of Chapter 67. Again, trying to simplify the convoluted law that is the city's administrative code. And Chapter 67B, which was recently enacted related to the parental leave policy. Maybe that should stand alone, maybe not. Maybe that could be incorporated into the meeting requirements in as much as it relates to quorum and how parental leave policies work. Anyway, I'm just suggesting that if one is going to go to the effort of a wholesale reevaluation of the Sunshine Ordinance and how it works in the city, that it be just that we look at meetings, records, and all the things around the conduct of meetings and the retention and provision of public records, and the practices around that, and bear in mind all that technology now allows us to do and that technology limits us to doing. So, this idea of Microsoft imposing a 1 month limit, if it's Microsoft doing it, well, that's a problem. If it's some city department that's setting that, well, that's different. But in general, and here was my big point for tonight, I think changes should be carefully considered, balanced, reasonable, and specific. And by balance, I don't mean that we should, I mean that we should consider the costs and the benefits of the changes. If we say that everybody has to keep everything forever, thanks. That's already 4.5 minutes? All right, I'll edit down. If we're suggesting that everybody should keep everything forever, yes, that has some public benefit, but it also has a huge cost of retaining, and when someone asks for something, having to go through and find stuff. And I'm not convinced that keeping everything forever makes sense. However, getting rid of stuff too quickly that might have some real import is also not a good idea. And the idea behind immediate disclosure requests was that things that are really important that you need right now for a meeting tomorrow or for an article that you're writing or a research project, that people should sort of drop everything that they're doing and find that thing. It doesn't mean that they have to go look through every single record that the department has, but if there is a specific class of documents that's available that meets that test for an immediate disclosure request, that they should have that available, make it available, post it, etc. Why don't I leave it at that based on the discussion and come back later. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Young, do we have someone else in line?
There's nobody else in line. We have two other people with us, but they may not want to speak at this time. If you'd like to make public comment, you can raise your hand. Give you a few moments to make up your mind.
I do see one hand raised, but I don't know. Is that Mr. Kildhill's
They have already spoken.
Okay.
I do not see any other people indicating public comment at this time.
Okay. As I said, I will give public comment to everyone who wants to make public comment, regardless of whether they've spoken already. But while we're waiting to see, okay, I don't see any hands raised. Members, any thoughts, comments, or questions, or shall we, is there anything that you would like to say? I'm not seeing anything from Member Wong. Member Wolf, is there anything that you would like to say, or should I move on to?
I think the only response, I just have kind of a response,
Sure.
And it may just be my own interpretation or my own opinion. But this task force is quasi-judicial, and the way the formulation of actions that get created are based upon what's heard during a hearing, and lots of times that would change. The complaint is the question that is being brought before the body. Much in the same way it does in a court of law, but not like at all in a legislative process where there is a very specific, tangible action to be taken, and it actually defines a yes or no vote. In fact, there are various times when the Board of Supervisors actually has 3 actions for the same question. One to say yes, one to say no, or one not to do anything, or something else. And because there's a very specific function for those particular types of actions. But this is not the same. This is a very subjective, fluid type of process. And despite how the law is written, I think the way that this task force has been operating over the past 20 years has been that the complaint itself is the question that has been brought before the body. Now, if that needs to be reformatted to have a question mark at the end of it, okay. I'm sure that something like that can be done, but I don't think we're doing anything wrong here, and I don't think that we're going against the law in any kind of way. It has not been brought up to us as far as in a complaint per se, an official complaint, and it's not been brought before, or nor have we received a court order to make a change under any kind of writ of mandamus. So We've not been advised by legal counsel either in or out of the task force, or any other legal body or opinion that we're not operating within the confines of the law. So I think as a matter of course, the way this task force has been operating, it's been under kind of a legal tenet of precedent, and that whether there was a question, actually stated on the agenda or not, the overall result more or less is the same, because the complaint outlines what the issue is, and that's what we mostly, if not all the time, focus on, is whatever anybody brings in front of us. So that's kind of all I have to comment on right now with regards to any highlights. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay. Member Wolf, thank you. I do appreciate everyone who has commented this time and the previous time. And I will try to organize all of those thoughts in a complete manner, but in a way that helps people understand what is being proposed. And Member Wolf, thank you for your comments here. Mr. Young, I'd like to open this up for public comment for anyone who wants to comment on something, if they have something else to add or wants to comment on something that a previous speaker said. Now would be the time. I see one hand raised. Perhaps we could allow that person to speak and remind others that they may also speak for an additional 3 minutes if they would like to join the queue.
Yes, if you'd like to. Oh, they have raised their hand, so we will go ahead and get started. Mr. Hilko, at Cheryl's discretion.
Cheryl Hood, they get 3 minutes.
Yes, 3 minutes for this round. Thank you.
David, are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, David Phillips again. So I think at this point, I just wanted to emphasize a little more on the structure. I think it is, if you're encapsulating what the previous discussion was and bringing this to the full task force, and then maybe they'll send it back here for more work on the language and the concepts. I think that it will take time to go through each section and discuss the specifics of the provisions. In the past, when the task force has done this, those meetings have been long and somewhat exhaustive. I would suggest that either having a special meeting for specific topics, or a big chunk of one of these meetings that could go on for a while would be in order. I would suggest having a section just devoted to public meetings and everything about public meetings from soup to nuts. A second section on public records, again, soup to nuts. A third on implementation and everything else. And that implementation and everything else, I think, would include record retention and could involve, powers and duties and charter amendment and all kinds of things. And, each of those three, I think, could go on, could be more than one session. I think there's a lot to get into. And just for example, some of the ideas that I and others have advanced about public meetings, having all documents available in advance as a PDF by a certain time, posted on the website when new things are available, making very clear that when they've been posted that they're new or that something has been amended or superseded, having recordings, in some cases transcripts, as Member Wolf has suggested, audio recordings, and posting those on a website within X amount of time after a meeting. These are things, some of these are things that weren't easily doable 20 or 25 years ago, and are now, thanks, and are now a lot more doable. And so we should think about those, but bear in mind that, you know, what requirements you're adding have a cost in terms of dollars and staff and priorities. And so we should think carefully about what makes sense to do and how much the public benefits from specific things. So I'm happy to talk more in the future, and I hope that helps. Thanks again.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Young, do we have another person in the queue?
It's Mr. Hillier at Cheryl's discretion.
I could time myself. I've got my timer right here. You trust me?
Ready, Mr. Hillier?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Leger. So to respond to Mr. Wolf's comments, yes, this is an adjudicative body, or it acts in adjudicative capacity, I would say. But having litigated cases in both federal and state court, I know that you actually do have to put what is the proposed action before the court. That is your complaint. Your complaint has a section for facts, and then it has a section for prayers, which is what you want the court to do. You have to state with specificity what it is you want the court to do, and they do have a little bit of leeway. Usually you would include a sentence that says, and whatever else the court feels justice requires. But for the most part, you're expected to put what you're trying to get on the complaint, and you're bound by it to some extent. You have to say, if you're asking for damages, you have to say that you're asking for money damages and how much money damages, $1 million, $100 million, $10, what? And that is what would be that is what I think the Sunshine Ordinance requires to be on the agenda. It helps to have specifics. I think a lot of people would wake up and smell the coffee, and I talked about this in my document submissions. There are people in the Behavioral Health Commission that think that the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force can be ignored. They think because it has no teeth. And I think you do have teeth, but you are very reluctant to use them. The way that you would use them is you would put on the agenda, okay, a proposal to recommend that the task force recommend to the Ethics Commission that Grant Colfax be dismissed from office for willful noncompliance with the Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.7A or whatever. That would make people wake up. If you're talking about removing specific commissioners from the commission, asking the Board of Supervisors to do that, that would wake people up, and it would get them to come to these meetings, and things would start rolling. Things would start moving in a way that they're not now. They're gummed up and they're going nowhere. And I've been at this for the OD was in April, and we're still working on this and not getting very far. I have 30 seconds left. I just want to say, there was something else. I have submitted complaints about this. Please don't say that no one has submitted complaints about this. I've been doing that for the past 2 years, and they've all been before you. And this has repeatedly happened. The Behavioral Health Commission thoroughly abuses this section by just making up whatever they want to go under the agenda. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Young, do we have anyone else in the queue?
We don't have any other indications of public comment.
Okay, and to acknowledge Mr. Hillier, yes, we know that you have had complaints, which we've attended to, regarding the Behavioral Health Commission and the actions of this committee. So we are listening. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this discussion. I look forward to bringing these ideas to the full task force for even more conversation. At this point, members, anything else to say on this, or should we move to the final item?
Nothing more from me.
Okay. Ms. Leger, please call the next item.
Item number 7, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Compliance and Amendments Committee.
Members, do we have anything, anything you would like to discuss at future meetings that we don't have planned already?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Member Wolf.
I don't think so. Not yet. No.
Okay. Okay. I will say that the write-up for the last item will be included on the next I'll make sure that that's included in the next attached to the next agenda. I don't have anything new that for us to take on right now. I volunteered to help with the annual report, so my attention is going to be on that. Which is not the chief responsibility of this committee, but that's something that I'm going to be helping with. This may be the shortest CAC meeting ever. So I'm going to allow one final round of public comment before we close. Does anybody have anything that they didn't get to say that they would like to say? I see a hand raised.
Okay, I will unmute. I will unmute Liza at this time.
Okay.
Thank you again. It's just an observation, but I find it very disturbing that public comment can throw other people under the bus. It just seems unprofessional and someone should stop it. You know, you don't throw people under the bus. You don't call people out by their first name. You don't victimize somebody if they don't get a rebuttal. There you go, another discrimination. And I find that disturbing. No one should be calling people apart on a public comment. It's not a place to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Hillier, I did not clear the queue. I was wondering if you had public comment at this time.
I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next and last on the list for today will be Mr. Pilpel.
Okay, David Pilpel last time. Just a couple of things. Not specific to any particular case, but in general, there certainly may be violations, and there may be individuals who aren't doing things correctly. But I think in general, we should assume that people are trying to do the right thing, may not always know what the right thing is, but, you know, are trying to get it right. And if there's corrective action, then there's corrective action. But I think in general, it's better to assume that people want to get it right. And the vast experience in the city is that the departments do get it right. You get very few complaints. The complaints that you get actually do matter, absolutely. But for the vast number of meetings and record requests, the city gets it right and certainly tries to. And so that, I just don't see that always comes through at meetings of the task force and the committees. I just wanted to say that. I also wanted to thank the members and Victor and Cheryl for all of your work throughout the year. And there's clearly more work to do next year. So happy holidays, and thank you all very much. That's all. More next time.
Thank you. Mr. Young, do we have anyone else in the queue?
That completes the public comment list.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on December 27th. Next meeting will be in 2023 with the full task force. I appreciate you all being here. Ms. Leger, should we call the final item?
Shall we?
Yes.
Okay. Item number 8, adjournment. I have 6:38.
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your participation in these challenging discussions. There will be more next year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy and healthy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care now.
Bye.
Yes.